can the anxious, attached, codependent person actually move into the secure attachment position? Can we all be moving around this or changing our behaviors, our styles into something new?
Yes, we can. I think that the first thing we have to do is really think about, well, there's a couple of things that have to happen. And in my experience, it is first looking at what is happening to me, you know, what's the effect of what's happening to me, and then also looking at why me and why now. So that's where I get into the whole the title of this course, you know, divine calling kind of thing, because we really have to look at our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors, and understanding them in the context of how they've been cultivated over time through the influence of biology and also through the influence of our social conditioning. So, for example, there are some distinct beliefs that individuals who have these attachment styles harbor. So, for example, an open heart tends to think, you know, I'm not happy unless I'm in a relationship. Otherwise, I question why nobody wants me, and I figure that I must be doing something wrong or that I'm just not good enough. And there are so few opportunities for love for me in the world. I really have to hang on to what I have, right? Whereas the Rolling Stone has a tendency to think relationships come at the cost of personal freedom. I'll never find a partner that gets my need for space without taking it personally or creating unnecessary drama. I think I have a lot to give, but it's just never enough. And so in the end, you know, I think it's better to keep it casual or not to have relationships at all, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have the spice of lifers who think like, I want connection, but I'm also really afraid of it. Remember, these are the folks who've also experienced trauma. And usually that means the place of safety was also the place of threat. Mm-hmm. So they may be afraid that anyone who shows up in a positive way in their life, they're just putting on a facade. They're just using me. Eventually they'll leave me, you know, I probably will have deserved it. It's better for me to pull out now before the other shoe drops while I still have the upper hand, and or while we still have the good memories, you know, maybe we can still be friends. But they're not decided on it because the nature of their attachment style is ambivalent. So these are folks that will push you away and pull you back in, right? Mm-hmm. But then let's hold this in comparison to the secure individual, right? Well, okay, so these are all these beliefs. So what does the secure individual think? Well, a secure individual might say, you know, well, I'm open to relationship and I believe that I will meet someone in time, and there's plenty of opportunities for love in the world, and I could make a loving relationship with a variety of people. You know, chemistry is great, but it's not everything, and especially not in the long term. You really want to meet someone who has shared values, goals, can be emotionally honest. And compatibility is really the foundation for true romance, and that's actually something that builds over time. Mm-hmm. Now, time is also an interesting thing here, because in each of the other three insecure attachment styles, urgency. There's a tremendous amount of urgency around romantic relationships. Not a lot of an ability to sit with ambiguity or with, you know, not knowing something right away. So there will be, and I call that the voice of the ego. There will be, you know, the ego or fear-based beliefs are in operation when you have the sense of urgency around it. I have to make this decision now. If I don't make this decision now, it's going to mess up the rest of my life. You know, there's an idea that there's a right and wrong way to be. And that also bleeds into our ideas about, well, what is felt security, right? So if we're wanting to move towards felt security, again, it's what's happening to me, why me, why now? So I want to start with the what's happening to me, and that speaks to the biology piece, right?
Mm-hmm. Great.
So your attachment style biologically affects you in 4 compelling ways. And the first is from the deepest recesses of your survival brain. So this is in the limbic brain. So this is especially true for people who've had traumatic experiences, abuse, neglect, things like that. This is going to affect your hypothalamus, your amygdala, the deepest part of your reptilian brain, and that is going to have an impact on how you see and perceive and process information. Okay, it also affects our ability to form coherent narratives. It affects our ability to be able to name, articulate, and use words around our feeling states, how we relate to people. It can affect our ability to what's called co-regulate or attune to people, which means we're able to, other people are able to help us make sense of our feelings. we can allow them to or not allow them to, or be able to utilize that effectively. The second way is the autonomic nervous system. Polyvagal theory is a good place to dig into this if someone finds that interesting. But the autonomic nervous system is divided into three, essentially. There's the freeze response, which is the dorsal vagal. There's the sympathetic system, this fight or flight. And then we have the system that has to do with social and connection, like being able to be connected on a social level, being able to attune, to co-regulate, and to be able to be comfortable. This is the ventral vagal. So in our attachment relationships, because it's tied to our survival brain, and because all of that informs the way we respond to our environments, your autonomic nervous system is going to have a lot to say about who you're going to be attracted to and why. Then we also have, and how you respond to them, your nervous system, how you respond to them. This pops up a lot when you see people saying, well, how do I know if it's a gut feeling or if it's just me reacting to a trauma response, right? Then also there's some research done by Omri who says we may have a genetic inheritance that influences what kind of attachment style we have, epigenetics. And in addition to that, if we find ourselves caught in insecure relationships, in particular, Heller and Levine wrote a book called Attached, it's a best-selling book, yeah. And they talk about a circumstance called the anxious avoidant trap. And this is when we have the open hearts and the Rolling Stones, or the anxious folks, codependent folks, and the more avoidant individuals coming together, and they mismatch because they trigger each other over and over again, right? So, but when that happens, usually there will be a pattern of what's called intermittent reinforcement. So a partner will show up with fireworks one day, you'll get all the emotional intimacy, cuddles, sex, attention that you want. Maybe it lasts for a day, 2 days, 3 days, 2 weeks, and then they're gone. No explanation. Maybe you get a text at 2 a.m., miss you, like a week down the line or something like that. And then they'll come back and they don't offer any explanations, and you're too afraid to ask for an explanation because you're conflict avoidant and you're just so happy that they're back and you want to experience that high again. So this becomes a pattern of intermittent reinforcement, predictable unpredictability. So that creates what's called frustration attraction. Helen Fisher is a brain researcher. She calls this frustration attraction, and it creates the same chemical cocktail in your brain as cocaine addiction, as a gambler at the slot machine.
Wow.
So you never know when your next hit is going to come. So codependency is often likened to love addiction. I would say they are, in fact, the same thing. And I wouldn't say that metaphorically, I'd say it quite literally. Your brain is producing the exact same chemicals as when you are addicted to drugs. And the same chemicals are created when we fall in love, even in a healthy circumstance. So we also, I think, have to look at how we're defining those things. So we have the biological piece. So sometimes learning that the conflicts that occur in our relationships may stem from survival tactics, right? That when we say the word triggered, some people use the word triggered to say, I had an uncomfortable feeling and I didn't like that feeling. And I wanted to get away from that feeling as fast as I could, right? So sometimes when we say, oh, I was triggered, meaning I had a feeling I didn't want to have, right? So, but sometimes when we use the word triggered, it means that it's more than being irritated. It means that you have triggered a survival response. You have passed a threshold in your nervous system, and now you are in survival mode. And when we are in survival mode, we will do what it takes to survive. And sometimes if we've grown up in certain environments and circumstances and we haven't learned how to self-regulate, that means we will say things we don't mean in the heat of the moment. That means we will hit below the belt. That means we will tear down each other's character. That means we will start criticizing each other unnecessarily, right? That means we will punish through withdrawal, or we will punish through silent treatment, or we will do passive-aggressive things, right? We will take away resources, or we will give too much, trying to obligate someone and make them need us so they don't leave us, right? So these are survival tactics that evolve from having an insecure attachment style, which is deeply informed by our physiology. So first understanding, like, where are you in that process of understanding the activation of your physiology in a relationship is really important. because it creates a sense of awareness and consciousness around, and mindfulness around how your body is informing your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and perceptions of what's actually going on in this moment. And it also allows you a sense of empathy for what the perspective of the other person might be. Now, the second part is taking a look at, well, why okay, so all that's happening to me, why am I becoming aware of it now? You know, and oftentimes when people come to me, it's because they have reached a certain phase in their journey, life journey, you know, like their whole archetypal spiritual path and journey. A lot of us come to watching like an interview like this because some relationship was the cherry on top. And you were like, you know what? It keeps happening. So I'm the only common denominator. So there must be something, some role I'm playing here. And I just don't know what it is. Right. And so that's when usually they come to me, and it's like, you learn the information, you learn the sort of scientific answers, right? And that satisfies for a little while. And then we're like, yeah, well, now I've got all of the scientific answers, but now I need to make meaning of that experience. Am I just a ping pong ball bouncing up against the things in my environment, and there's no rhyme or reason to it? And so there's a little bit of a sense of agency at first because we learn the scientific answers, and we like answers because we think answers tell us how to solve the problem. And so then we spin our wheels for a while trying to solve the problem, and luckily that doesn't go on as long as it did for you to realize something was wrong. But it goes on for a couple of years usually, and then you hit a wall again, and you're like, well, now I have all the answers, but still, well, what's the meaning? And I'm still attracting the same partners, even though I know why now, and none of it's changing. So then most of the people who work with me will say, well, Brianna, you know, anxious people worry a lot. And I noticed that secure people don't worry as much. So now that I know that, I've been doing all I can to try to stop worrying as much so I can be more secure, but it's not working. I still keep attracting the same partners over and over again. Well, I have all this insight and nothing's changing. And that is because the first step, realizing that that's what's going on, is like, you know, step one, right? That's awareness. And that's a big step. And it's a huge, you know, milestone in everyone's process, or who struggles with this process, right? But now we become very aware of our own insecurity. Now we become very aware of, oh, this is happening to me. Oh, and now we have a double trouble because we're anxious about being anxious.
Right.
And now we're like, oh, I know that that's what I used to do, and I'm not going to do that anymore, because if I do that, then they'll know I'm insecure, and then I'll come across as even more insecure, and I'll just push my partners away. So I'm just going to, you know, step it down. And I'm going to put on this great performance of how secure I am, because I know what a secure person looks like right now, and I know what my Rolling Stone partner would want, so I'm going to become that thing. And so you've got all this energy going on in here. But you're saying all the right things. So partner says, how are you? Are you okay? They're sensing something from you. And you're like, no, I'm fine. Everything's great. Right? No, a secure person would be fine with this. So I'm going to be fine with this. Right? But you're not fine. And they wouldn't have asked the question if you weren't, you know, and if you were. And so so love and relationships, it's a feeling thing. We can't think our way around it. We just have to feel our way through it. And so they're going to sense that from you. And even if it's not on their own conscious level, on some level, they're going to say, but I sense that there is something wrong here. And she's telling me no, that there isn't. And so now I'm wondering, am I sensing her correctly? Do I not know her as well as I thought I did? Or am I just messed up? Am I not organizing my own feeling states correctly? And what happens is there's this sort of foggy, pervasive, unconscious sense of not feeling safe with this person and not feeling quite trusting of this person. And things don't feel a little bit off, and the chemistry just doesn't seem quite right. And so now, over time, usually it's between 3 to 6 months down the line, what started as this great relationship, now for some reason one partner's pulling away, and the anxious partner's like, what did I do wrong? I did everything right. I acted like a secure person the whole way. I said all the right things. I didn't push for contact. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And I was, you know, we were right there, and now they're gone, and I don't understand. They say the chemistry's off, but they can't give me a good reason why. They say I'm an amazing person and I love you, but maybe now's just not the time, and that doesn't seem like a real reason to me, you know? And it's because there's this nonverbal, energetic conversation going on, because you're still thinking that there's an A to B equation to get to. And so real felt security is not so much about making sure the relational space is going harmonious and fluidly by constantly scanning your partner for what you think they're going to positively respond to. It's about your own relationship to your own insecurity. Can you be messed up? Can you be messed up? And that's okay. I'm messed up, and that's where I am in my process. And you know what? My messed upness makes me kind of unique and special, because it's contributing to the meaning, that it's contributing to the collective in some way. My messed up experience is informing the collective in some way. And that means that whatever I experience, that all experiences, even experiences that I deem as lacking in potential or not meeting up to some kind of unfulfilled potential, whatever, I hear that all the time, that every experience is worthy of investigation, every single one, including yours. And if we can just accept that that experience is worthy of investigation, and simply by virtue of allowing yourself to have it, that you are informing the collective in a meaningful and purposeful way, that the paradox is, once you can do that, now the anxiety starts to titrate. Because so much of that is about pushing or pulling against what we think is the right way to be, our greatest potential, our best self, right? But it's not, that's a pushing out process. The process of just allowing it to be what it is, and appreciating it and understanding that those messed up experiences aren't good or bad. They're just informing your understanding of a collective experience. Now you start to relax and unfold, because you realize that's just as important as anything else. And once that happens, it's an unfoldment. It's a relaxing into yourself. And once that happens, it's not like you lose your anxiety, you know, like those are but you embrace that parts of you, and you start to, now you have more choices around what meaning you want that to have for you in your life, right? And we start to accept the flaws in others, and we start to accept the insecurities in others, and we start to realize that you don't have to be perfect before accepting the perfect love into your life, right?
Beautiful. So is like what you're kind of describing here in the last minute or so, you talk about the great calling. Is that what this is, when you start to really unfold and let go and recognize some greater message in everything?